Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it does happen sometimes where one day you go to a restaurant and it's so good and you go again because it was so good last time, but then it doesn't hit the same. And usually what my mom says is like, oh, it's a different chef this time or something like that. So
Right. So then that experience wasn't what you were expecting. And then would you go back again?
I would, because the first time I have hope for
No,
it.
but let's say the third time, would you go back again? Because the first time, great. Second time, would you like give them a third chance?
No, because
Oh.
maybe the first time was the time it wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Right.
There we go. No, somebody called in and I don't know, because where my computer, there we go. Sorry, guys.
No problem. So one of the things that you all are in is the customer experience business, right? And being to wow, your job is to wow every customer every time. Now, you might not think, well, I don't have a business, but everyone you come in contact with, your job is to, how do I wow them in some way, shape, or form? You need to, so it's memorable. People will remember you, and you can wow them in some way, shape, or form where they're going to go like, that was really cool. I really, that was amazing, you know? So think about what you can do to wow and amaze people in your lives, whether it's customers or friends or family, or maybe people that you meet, business connections, whatever it is. Try and create some wow experience. That's one thing that will set you apart and make a huge difference in your future. I just wish I knew this stuff when I was your age,
And it's so easy. That's the thing, is that stuff that you're saying, you're like, well, yeah, but you're right. How many people don't make that mark? Or, kind of what you're saying, honey salt changed their butter and they took out the honey salt butter. And I'm like, but that's the whole purpose of honey salt, the restaurant. So I stopped going. And so you're right with the consistency. It was something so small, the butter. I mean, really isn't that important, but it changed my whole perspective of the restaurant. And so I see it, like everything that you're saying, you're like, yeah, that makes great sense. On like something so small that, the service didn't change, the rest of the food didn't change, but there was no consistency. And I think, I've noticed that a lot of bakeries failed over COVID for so many reasons, because nobody was having parties. Why would you have a bakery? So as you talk about a bakery and such a unique idea, I think there's this whole market for it because people are looking for it again. But the bakeries that stayed open, there's no consistency. Sometimes I go and they've got, cakes. Sometimes they only have cookies because, they are just trying to survive. But I hear what you're saying with a process, with consistency, with knowing what you're going to get. It's so important.
And for those companies that have grown exponentially, like in the 500, Fortune 500 land, they're billion-dollar businesses. The one thing they have made them successful was having a process around what they do, so they can train people the best, fastest, easiest way of doing things that are, the most productive and efficient. So, those are kind of things that you could consider as a success secret. It's in the book. I talk about it, but now we can kind of segue into the book if you want. I don't know if anybody read it or have any questions.
And I did tell John, I put it in the invite, but for some people, I didn't realize it wasn't coming up. So they all got it just a few days ago, unfortunately, unless their Evite actually had it connected to it. I did not realize. Oh, I'm sorry about that, everyone. But yeah, what questions do you guys have for John? I think we have to do this more often. Just keep reading the book. And
I have a question.
Sure.
For you, like starting off, I know that you started off kind of like by yourself. What do you think is the best way to like market yourself and like create a brand for yourself so your people see you kind of like how you want them to see you?
So I think about niches. Anybody know what a niche is? They call them niches or niches. Anybody know what a niche is? What's a niche?
Basically just like a category of some sort that you're interested in, right? Like a very specific
Unique,
That's a-
specific.
Unique, yeah. I can't really explain it.
Well, let me give an example. So a niche would be something very highly specialized that nobody's doing. So I looked at what the arena stadium food looked like, and if you go to the theme parks, it's pretty horrible food. I mean, it's hot dogs, popcorn, pretzels, you know, stuff like that, mainly in the stadiums and theme parks and arenas. That's just all the same crap, to be honest with you. And I thought to myself, nobody's doing this. Nobody's got this little niche called roasted almonds and pecans and glazed in cinnamon and sugar. Nobody's doing it. And they're not roasted, they're made on freshly on the cart. And I thought, well, that's a niche, right? And all I have to do is explain how that will help them, which was, if we put a roasted nut cart in here, it's going to help you sell more beer, because selling more beer is the most profitable thing they sell. I mean, it literally, they may have 25 cents in that cup of beer and they'll sell it for $7. It's practically like selling water, you know, it's so profitable. And anything that they can do to sell more beer, they love it. So they would always like put a beer or soda cart right next to my cart, because one would bounce off the other. It's called incremental sales. It doesn't cannibalize it, it enhances it. But nobody out there in the entire world in the whole world, and especially in the markets of stadiums, arenas, and theme parks, had anything like this. They'd never seen it before. So it was a niche. And all I wanted to do was fill the niche. And the niche was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So that was my niche, is just find a little crevice somewhere that there's nobody doing it. It's absolutely no competition. And I also realized that once I was in a theme park or stadium, there was no more, I eliminated the competition. Because if somebody called up and says, hey, I've got these roasted peanuts and cinnamon or whatever, they're going to go, we already do that. It's too similar. So I've eliminated the competition. My goal was, let me take the top 300 stadiums, arenas, and theme parks in the world and just go open them up, and get them, go capture them. And that's what we did, and we eliminated the competition. We created a niche. So one of the things, the answer to the question is, can you find a niche that where there's nobody doing what you do? And if you can, fill it. So let me give you another example. I had a client and they were a moving company. Now, if you look at the phone book, how many moving companies are there?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. So how do you possibly compete in that space? What these guys did is they decided that they're going to move very expensive artwork for galleries and, like the art institutes, museums, like New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they're going to specialize in moving multi-million-dollar objects and artwork and sculptures that are priceless sometimes from point A to point B. And that's all they're going to do, because nobody was really doing that very well. So they got really good at just moving priceless artwork from one museum to the other, from one place to the other, and it requires especially of boxing it and handling it and moving it and protecting it. You have a Rembrandt, you don't want anybody like breaking in and stealing it, right? So that was their niche, and they've done incredibly well just on, they were a client of mine and they needed to find their niche, and that realized that they could do that, and so they started doing it. So think about, and nobody was doing that they became worldwide company based on just doing that. Another example, when they take a building like a office building and they blow it up and it just implodes on itself. Ever seen those pictures or videos of buildings just go, they collapse, but there's 3 other buildings right next to it, they don't get damaged, right? I don't know if everybody's seen those videos of buildings that are just blown up. That's a niche. I mean, that's a specialty, right? So how do you carve out, and that company became world famous for just blowing up buildings without taking down 3 other buildings next to it.
And I think when we see a lot of businesses fail, I think there are a lot of times they're just doing another one of, we don't need any more ice cream places. But when you find those like niche ones, you're like, oh, this is really, really different, really interesting, no different than your peanuts. Well, there's peanuts everywhere, but yours were gourmet, yours were different. And I think
Well, they were made on the cart and they were put into a stadium or theme park where the audience, the people that attended didn't care that it was $5 a bag,
because that's not bad at a theme park. But I will say when I just got them at Disneyland, I think they were a lot more than $5 a pack.
Okay, fine. They've probably gone up.
There's been a little inflation, but they were so good. But yeah, it's, and you don't mind, you're gonna splurge a little bit. You're gonna try something super different. And I love that. But you see that a lot, even, South Point in Vegas. Is it the nicest casino? No, but man, they found a niche where they are always at capacity. They go for cowboys and bowlers.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they have a good raw bar, and they're known for that too, because there's not a lot of raw bars in town.
Yeah.
And they have an amazing avocado crab salad, which is ridiculous. For $20, that's incredible, So they've really like taken that niche down into who are we, what is our customer? What do we want to get good at? It's cowboys and bowlers, and guess what? It's worked for them.
Yeah. And, it's, even as I'm thinking, Epicurean Charitable Foundation, we are a really unique niche. There are a lot of other sports scholarship organizations in town. There are a lot of other just nonprofits in town, but what is our niche? And I think as you're kind of talking, one of the things we don't do is processes. That is something that we, events, we do, we follow a great process. And that's why our events are always so great. Because we figure out what works, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to change it. We're always trying to, evolve to bring something new, but the process is exactly the same. And so as you talk about, what's wrong, well, our board, our mentoring organization, there isn't a process yet. And that is something I think we can do better at.
Well, the other thing you could do, by the way, is because you're so good at events and your events are so well done and so few are good at that, you could actually consult with others on how to do that.
That's a really interesting idea. And it is, Chris, we go to other events and their registration are painful.
Oh.
And it's really hard for Chris and I not to jump behind the desk and fix it for them. But we figured it out. And so, yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because there's certain parts of it that we've got it down to a science.
And so many not-for-profits suck at it. Okay.
It's true. It's true.
You guys have got it down to a science, and you probably could help them in some way, or I don't know. I'm just suggesting, because you do something so well and so many don't do it well. Is there a way to create a consulting firm that helps them build that better?
Yeah, no, that's a really great idea. And as you're talking, what's the one thing we don't do? Well, we've got, some general guidelines for a board, but man, if we had a better set of procedures, how much stronger could we be? Yep. I like that. And just to let you know, Jaslyn just joined us as well.
Okay, great. Hey, Jaslyn. So going back to the book, any thoughts and comments on the book, or, if you didn't read it, please do. You can always ask me anything about it. But it's more like a booklet than a book. I wanted to keep it simple and easy to read. Unless you want to do version 2.0, everybody reads the book and then we get back together.
What do you think? Version 2.0? Do you have time for us, John?
Sure. Always.
That was my fault with the book. I do apologize for that. I should have sent it separately. But yeah, why don't I would love to do this again and give everybody a little more time to read the book and go over sort of what we're manifesting and what the next steps are. And
maybe you can all practice your parking manifestation. Do parking spots first. Try that one. Okay.
I'm in my head. I'm telling you, it's my one thing, whereas I know it's all in my head. But yeah, I think we should. And I think I'd love to get back together and chat with you a little bit more and see what everybody thinks, and maybe invite some of the graduates as well next time, because we have some new graduates. But yeah, just to see, I think it's important. Write it down, reach for the stars. I like that.
Good. Yep. And the only person stopping you is you. So at least be okay with it. Trying, at least try, that's the main thing. And keep going.
So obviously
Have a
this
good-
group is very, they're still in college, 18 to 22. When did you start your business?
26.
26. And when did you sell the peanut business?
In early 30s, sold
Okay.
the company. Yeah. And I could have retired, but so many people were asking me, how did you do it? And I said, well, here's what I was doing. And why not show others how to build great companies? And I also thought to myself, hey, how is a roasted bag of almonds going to change anybody's life? I mean, in reality, let's think about it for a minute. It's a great snack, but is it really going to change your life in any meaningful way? And I thought to myself, there's got to be a higher purpose, and maybe I could take what I learned, and if I taught others, having a great company will change their lives, changes their families' lives, their employees' lives. Even the governor of Illinois named March 16th COSI Day in the state, because I have a day named after me in Illinois, because we created jobs and saved companies and grew businesses. And it's important, if you're a business owner, or you want to work in a company, it's really important that that company grows. And maybe next time I can also talk about some of the things that they could do when they get a job, the things they could do to become like a rock star and an innovator to really help that business flourish. Because if you know what I know, because here's what I know, I can walk into any business and make it grow exponentially. And if you knew that also, that's a pretty good skill set to have.
That'd be cool.
Yep.
I'm hearing this and I'm like, man, I can learn. Everybody can learn from this. There's just so much even within an organization that I can do. So imagine when you have the whole world ahead of you, that you can just kind of embark on anything. How do you get to be this rock star?
Yeah.
I'm interested.
So it's a simple, I can teach you the 4 steps. You can walk into any company that you sit and say, hey, boss, I'm going to show you 4 simple steps we can use to grow this business like crazy, and make millions of dollars more. And, maybe they'd want to hire you because you know how to do that. I'm just saying it's a skill set. My clients have paid me millions of dollars to help them. It's a skill set. Maybe it's something you should know.
All right. So because we asked you so much questions and I feel like, I know we're coming kind of down to the end of time. We look at like a month from now, I'll read the book.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
And then let's talk about how you're going to put that in your life, how you're going to be that rock star. And I'm going to look at how we can do that with ECF, because there's so much more we can do.
Okay, great. Cool.
And I'd like to invite anybody who'd like to be a part of the ECF process. If you see things, I think that would be a great discussion to have, because, we're all a part of this organization.
Yeah. You got it.
Questions for John before we let him go? Thank you,
I
John.
guess silence is consent. So I'll take that as a no.
Great. Oh, thank you, John. It's so good to see you finally. It's been a while.
You too.
All right.
All right. Should
All
we
right,
wrap it
thanks,
up?
everyone.
John.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Do.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right. Call me.